among many of the horrible things that the Jews did to get punished, rather, many of the horrible ways that the Jews were punished because of, their perfidiousness in the desert, was for God to send seraph serpents, venomous vipers, into their tent. There was a time they're wandering through the desert. They've already sinned a number of times. Moses is getting tired of them and complaining to God, and God is like, these are your people. And then God's complaining about them, and Moses is like, these are your people. Kind of like a mom and dad bickering back and forth about whose kid they actually are when they're in trouble. This time they complained against Moses and against God, and God sends seraph serpents to bite them. So they're plagued by these vipers that are kind of slithered around all over the camp. People are getting bit and they're dying. And they realize, my goodness, we're getting bit by these serpents because we're terrible people and we've complained against God and Moses, and we need to be better. We need to repent. It was because of our sinfulness that we're dying. They finally made that connection. And when they did, they went to Moses and they were like, gee, God, we're really sorry that we complained against you and against God. Could you do something about these serpents? Moses goes and asks God, and God says, Moses, this is what you're going to do. Hammer out a bronze serpent, okay? Stick it on a post and then hold it up in the air. And then anybody who looks at it, they can get bit by the serpent and they'll live. Does that make any sense at all? No, that's crazy, right? I mean, imagine, right, we've got this plague of this epidemic of drugs, right, in our culture right now. Could you imagine God saying, okay, folks, you're all struggling with this addiction. Anybody who's addicted to drugs, what I want you to do, I want you to go and make a big papier-mâché syringe, okay? And then stick it on a pole and hold it up. And anybody who's addicted to heroin, if they look at that syringe, they'll be cured. That's kind of what this was. Now, there is a basis for this in ancient magic. You could make a totem of the thing that you were trying to either ward off or be protected from, and it would sort of grant you that protection. So there is a basis. It's not totally out of the blue. But it is also pagan magic, right? But God says to Moses, go do this thing. Why would God ask Moses to do that? Hold up this bronze serpent, the thing, an image of the thing that is afflicting the people unto death. And anybody who sees it, anybody who looks on it, anybody who has faith in the power of that will be healed of the venomous bite of the serpent. This is all context for what Jesus is saying here when these Greek fellows show up and they're like, hey, we want to see Jesus. There's this huge dramatic scene that happens, that unfolds, that we just read through because a couple of Greek dudes want to see Jesus. Philip gets all upset. He goes and gets Andrew. Andrew gets bothered. They both have to go and tell Jesus together because apparently they're afraid to do it. So they're like, nudging each other, standing in front of Jesus. You tell him, no, you tell him, right? Jesus, some Greeks want to see you. As soon as they tell him that, Jesus launches into this huge, dramatic thing about seeds dying and people hating their life and losing it and finding it again, and then something about his hour, and he concludes with this. When I am lifted up, when I am raised up, I will draw all people to myself. He's showing himself to be the fulfillment of a thing that happened hundreds of years ago, prophetically by Moses. Jesus, who we know is the new Moses, the new lawgiver, shows himself not only to be the new Moses, but also to be the bronze serpent, just as he is both priest and victim, both Abraham and lamb, right, to be slain. Jesus is saying here, I will be lifted up. By nailing Jesus to the cross, a stick, and then raising him up, he is the bronze serpent. He takes on sin for us. He becomes accursed for us. He does the thing that we can't do, which is to die and drag our sins into the depths of hell and to crush them there so that they can't ever rise again. And then when he rises, leaving those there, the world is free from the shackles of sin. For those who look upon the cross and believe, like those Israelites who gazed upon the bronze serpent, were cured of the venom. Those of us who follow the one who was nailed to the cross are freed from the venom, the consequence of our own sinfulness. We're free from sin. It's amazing. By taking our sin on himself, right? This is a real Matrix move. Did everybody see the last Matrix movie? I just can't. I have no connection with you people. I talk about the Lord of the Rings. Nobody's seen it. Tolkien, nobody, C.S. Lewis, nobody's read it. The Matrix of all things, nobody's seen it. Okay, anyways, I'll just say it in a different way. This is going to be better, but this will be all right. Jesus, like the serpent on the cross, Jesus is what do they call those? What do you call the predator that acts wounded to bring in its prey and then it pounces? Decoy. Yeah, that's a decoy, but maybe we'll, for lack of a better term, unless you guys actually know the name of this kind of thing, we'll go with decoy predator. Jesus is a decoy predator, okay? He's a camouflage predator. He takes on our flesh and looks weak and broken and sad, like all of us, bound by sin, right? He takes that on, and he's got the devil fooled. The devil's like, look at that pathetic fool, that God that was supposedly so great. Look at how pathetic he is now. I'm going to go down there, and I'm going to strike him. And just as soon as he gets close, and he thinks his jaws are reaching around and going to swallow Jesus whole, the jaws of death reaching up as Christ is hanging on the cross, and they're reaching up and they're going to take him and drag him down, and they bite into him and they drag him down. All of a sudden they realize, oh no, but too late. We've just let in the light into the darkness. We've just let life into death. We've just let Jesus into the gates of hell. We opened the doors and brought him in, and now he's destroyed us. This is what Jesus does on the cross. This is the way the bronze serpent works, to be raised up. But it's not just the fact that that serpent was made, that the Israelites were cured. It's not just enough that Jesus was nailed to the cross for all of humanity to have salvation, but it was those who looked upon the serpent. There was a cooperative activity that happened. You have to go to the thing, go to the place. Maybe people drag you because you're too weak to go, you're feverish, and your legs all swollen and you can't walk on it, right? So they drag you there, you look at the serpent, and you're healed, right? Our cooperative, our skin in the game there is to to gaze upon that serpent, that Christ on the cross, that death, that sinfulness, that curse, that wickedness that is hanging there on the cross, lifeless and dead and broken and bloody and bruised, and believe that is victory. That is our own slavery being destroyed. There in that action, y'all, that is a sleeping predator. That is a hidden warrior. That's a camouflaged attacker, right? He plays weak. He plays vulnerable. He plays beaten. And as soon as his enemy comes close enough to gloat, he pounces and destroys them. And we who stay with him, who work with him, who are on his side, we who gaze upon him with the eyes of faith and say, in that weakness, which is, remember what St. Paul says about the cross, it's foolishness to Gentiles, it's a stumbling block for Jews and a foolishness for Gentiles. Everybody's going to look on that cross who don't have faith, and they're going to be like, that's dumb, why would he do that? Same attitude the devil has about the crucifixion. Boy, he made himself weak. He's not going to win. But we, especially for us, this is great for us because we know how it ends, right? I mean, we've got the historical proofs of Jesus' resurrection. I mean, we can go to his tomb and see that it's empty. Y'all, how cool is it to be able to go to the Holy Sepulchre, to be able to go to the tomb of Jesus in Jerusalem? It's a real place, real in time, like in space, and you can go there and you can be like, yep, nobody's buried there. Now, I mean, you could say, okay, sure, they can come and they can move the body and blah, 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 blah. But when you know that it's true and you can actually go and you can see the physical evidence, he's not there. Because this weak, pathetic, vulnerable, poor, boo-hoo human being who God was stupid enough to make himself like, he won. Right? But for us to share in that, and this is where I kind of keep looping around because it's just so cool to talk about. Let's move forward, though, because you guys know how I get. He wants something from us. Remember, he says, anyone who loves father or mother more than me is not worthy of me. Remember, he says, unless you take up your cross and follow me, you're not worthy of me. Remember, here he says something that I've forgotten. Whoever loves his life loses it. Whoever hates his life in this world will preserve it. Well, what does that mean, Jesus? Whoever serves me must follow me. Must follow me. Where are you going, Jesus? I'm going to the cross. Whoever serves me must follow me, and wherever I am, there also will my servant be. Jesus, when you're on the cross, I'm there. Jesus, when you descend into Hades and hell to drag my sins down there, to crush them and to leave them broken and dirty and dusty in that hellhole, and then leave them and rise again, I'm there with you. When you ascend to heaven to your Father, because I was there with you then and there with you then, I'm here with you now, and I'm ascending to heaven with you, right? Whoever serves me must follow me, and where I am, there also will my servant be. The Father will honor whoever serves me. We have to enter into the same combat that Jesus enters into, which means when our lives get difficult, that doesn't mean things are going wrong. Now, it might mean that I've sinned. It might mean I've done something wrong, and there's a consequence of temporal punishment due to me because of my sinfulness. Okay, I steal something. Let's say I steal something. Not only do I get arrested, and have to go through trial, and it's probably a misdemeanor thing, and because we're not prosecuting criminals anymore, and we don't put criminals in jail anymore, they just let me back out onto the street. But I got to go through all that hassle and pay all that money for bond and bail and all that stuff. But on top of that, also, because I try to be a good person, and I've done this terrible thing, stealing, the bubble gum from the candy shop. Not going into a candy shop, but never mind. I also have a guilty conscience. That also makes life hard. Y'all, if you have a clean conscience, you can go through just about anything in life and you can be okay with it. But as one who has, from time to time, had a very dirty conscience, a very unclean, a very broken, a very sinful conscience, I can tell you, the best things in the world could be happening to you. If you have an unclean conscience, a guilty conscience, you're going to be miserable. That's how the Joneses are, right? Oh, they look so happy. What happened? Why? But they're really miserable because they don't have a clean conscience, right? And then some Christians are like, well, I try to be a good Christian, but bad things keep happening. Shouldn't good things happen to me because I'm a Christian? No, because you're a Christian, bad things should happen to you. That's what Jesus says. If you're my follower, you need to take up your cross. And there's no reason to carry a cross except for the end of it. Somebody's going to nail you to it. And then you're like, oh my God, why me? I never saw this coming, right? It's like, but y'all, as Christians, we are called to enter into that combat, okay? When things are difficult in your life, when you're struggling with your husband, when you're struggling with your wife, when you're struggling with your kids, when you're struggling with your parents, when you're struggling with your job, when you're struggling in school, when you're struggling with your friends, when you're struggling with yourself, y'all, that doesn't mean something has gone wrong. It might mean that this is the time where I am with Jesus on the cross. And there will be a time in the future when I am with him in the resurrection. But now I am hanging with Jesus on the cross. And this is the thing that I need to do now. And I need to do it like him. I need to do it well. Do I have to like it? No. Here's the thing, y'all. Jesus says, I am troubled. The Greeks come, we want to see Jesus. Why is this important, by the way? Because now Jesus has the attention of both the Jews and the Gentiles. Now he can get crucified. Now is the time. The fullness of time has come. The Jews are looking at him. The Greeks are looking at him. The whole world's looking at him. He's like, now I've got everybody's eyes on me. Now is the time to get crucified. So he knows this time when he goes to Jerusalem, he's not coming out away from Jerusalem. This is the last trip to Jerusalem. And he's stuck there, hanging on a tree, nailed to a cross. Right? He is in agony over this. Imagine, you're walking to your death, okay? Let's say instead of leaving here and going home, you're going to leave here and you're going to go to the executioner's block, okay? Platform, about 5 feet tall, little staircase, little wooden block there. Fat guy, mask, axe, there, waiting for you. You're going to leave here, you're going to go. Are you going to be a little bit nervous leaving here, going there? A little bit? Yeah? You might hit the curb on your way out, right? You might swerve a little bit. You might drive real slow, right? But you've got to get there because you know because this is what Jesus says. He says, I do not want to do this. I'm terrified right now. I'm not happy with this whole situation. But what am I going to say? Lord, Father, save me from this hour. It's for this reason that I came. Y'all, when we as Christians struggle and we suffer injustice, what are we going to do? You're going to say, Lord, save me from this injustice. Save me from the suffering. Save me from the ailments of old age. Save me from the cancer. Save me from the broken leg. Save me from the blindness. For this reason, I've come into the world. Y'all, when we suffer, we build up souls in heaven. When we go to the block, when we go to the cross, when we leave here willing to say, Jesus, I'm going to walk with you wherever you go. If you're going to Jerusalem for the last time, buddy, I'm going to go with you. Now, that's going to be hard to say, and I'm not saying this all cavalier like I got it figured out either, but this is the reality. We got to walk with Jesus. And he goes to some pretty dark places. And he's invited each one of you, regardless of how strong you think you are, or how smart you think you are, or how old or how young. I'm too young to do this. I'm too old to do this. Y'all, from the moment that you're baptized to the moment that you die and stand before the judgment seat of Almighty God, you are a Christian. There is no retirement from Christianity. When you retire, it's only so you can do more Christian. Okay? That's it. That's why you retire from work, so that you're not distracted by paperwork anymore and you can go and do more works of mercy. That's what retirement is. Okay? We don't retire from the cross. He did not retire from the cross. His last days were on a cross. Why do we get so confused when our middle days and God permitted our last days on the cross? Why do we get so confused by that? We always seem so caught off guard. Always so bewildered. Why is this happening? Y'all, I'm telling you right now why it's happening. But understand that Jesus knows how scary it is. Jesus knows how hard it is. Jesus knows. He's in the garden at the end, sweating blood, shaking. Father, take this cup from me. You see, he's even weakening there, right? Here he says, I'm really troubled. I'm really bothered by this. I'm kind of scared to go to Jerusalem. But what am I going to say? Father, save me from this hour. It's for this reason I came. Oh, right there. He's like, I understand. I got it. Right? And then you get to the garden and it's even closer. And he's like, okay, Father, I was just kidding. Take this cup away from me. Seriously. Okay. But not your will, not my will, but yours be done. Again, even there in the temptation to doubt, in the temptation to fear and to quit, he doesn't do it. He gets it, y'all. He gets your suffering. He gets your sadness. He understands your confusion, your weakness and fatigue and suffering. He understands. That's why he took flesh. That's why he came to that hour, so that he could go through what he wants us to go through, so that us going through it well, we can have the same victory that he has. We have the same gift that those Israelites had in the desert. That when we look at the cross, when you go home and look at the crucifix on your wall, when this cross is unveiled once again, when we see a crucifix anywhere we are, take a moment, stop and look at that and say, Jesus, let me be with you there so that I may be with you in your resurrection and in your glorification in heaven. Jesus says to his Father, Father, your name be glorified. And he says, I have glorified it. I'm going to glorify it again. He's going to glorify it in Jesus' resurrection. Don't worry, Jesus, my son, who's troubled by your cross. It will not be the end. And guys, I want you to know the Father says the same thing to you. Don't worry. Don't worry, my son. Don't worry, my daughter. Don't worry, my friend. I've glorified my name. I'm going to glorify it again. If you stay true, if you stay patient in your suffering, if you stay willing to walk the straight and narrow, just as I've glorified it in my Son, and he sits at my right hand because of it, I'm going to glorify my name in you.